Let's get in there.
Okay.
It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. So let's begin our journey with this. I don't think we've talked about it enough. Maybe it's because it was too much after it happened. But 6 years ago, this pandemic changed our world, changed our lives.
It sure did.
How did you get through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you work and live today?
So what was so interesting is in that exact time frame, I was in like the thick of corporate America in a career that looked great on the front end of things, but when I was going home every day, I was just like feeling a little less fulfilled than I knew I was meant to. And then we were all sent home. And it like gave us this mandatory pause of, we were working from home. It's not like business. I was in investments. So investments did not stop when the pandemic hit, right? It was one of the industries that kept on going. And I just found myself in this space of like, I have a beautiful opportunity right now to like pause and really take a look, just like the rest of the world is am I doing what I want to forever? And is this what is actually fulfilling for me? And the answer was no. I felt myself being pulled in more of a way to help people. I also had just been part of my Grammy passed right before the pandemic started. And I was part of her, like part of I was able to be present for the weeks before she was passing and everything. And it just gave me this human connection feeling that while investments and our money and everything is a driving force of life and it's a factor of what we need to survive, it wasn't what I wanted my sole focus on. I could be fulfilled in a different way. So I took the leap and I walked away from a very successful career and changed my sales quickly. And so the pandemic actually turned out to be a very beautiful transition of life. um, and there were pockets of that I chose to make beautiful instead of, a lonely road. So I feel very lucky because I have close friends, family, and, so many that we all know that that was not the case for them.
Yeah. So let's talk about this transition that you've had. Let's dig into it. I'm going to put you in front of 13-year-olds. It's career day, and the kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize what you do to make sense to their brains?
How I would synthesize this is I would say, kiddo, Steven, what is your ideal day? If you could dream up a day on what you think would be the most fun and free feeling day ever, what would that be? I would get his answer, and it would probably be like playing with some sort of toy or like tinkering with something. And then I would then answer, I get to teach you how to do that and make money from it. I teach people how to be entrepreneurs now at this phase in my life. And what I do is wrap in personal development into it. And so while I'm teaching people how to curate their ideal day of freedom, we're putting a stamp of money behind it. And that's where I get to tie in that investment background and we get to put monetary value to it, but we get to do it in your delegation of your time. What does that look like for you? How do you want to spend your time rather than having to wake up and do this grind that we were just told was like normal for far too long.
Yep.
But the personal development side is what's really different, and that's what I really love. So being able to, to dig in a little deeper with that kiddo and talk about what he loves to do and enhance that and enhance his belief in himself and what he's capable of. Like now we're living a dream here.
Yeah. So speaking of dreams, when you were that age, what was your dream gig? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Okay, this is the best part. When I was little, my mom said to me, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "Oh, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a cosmetologist." Talk about the span
Sure.
of what that looks like. But what's comical about that now is I've been able to take pieces of
Mhm.
what I liked from each of those
Yeah.
angles. I did enter college going into as pre-med. And so that was like healthcare was one thing that I've always really loved. But what I've come to learn far past college years, since that was many lifetimes ago, was it was the human connection that I was really longing for. It was changing people's lives that I was really longing for, and that didn't have to be an outlet through medicine.
Yeah. So are you originally from Utah?
Yes, born and raised.
Okay, so let's go back to your beginnings. What were the foundational elements that were planted that led you to dream the way you did, to have the career and to find your voice now to help entrepreneurs find their vision?
Ah, great question. So, being born in Utah, I'm the youngest of eight children.
Wow.
I am your classic Utah child. I'm the youngest of eight kids. I grew up in the dominant religion that's here in Utah. There were a lot of things that were kind of set in stone for me or what could have been. And for a long time, I did like I walked through that and I just did what was easier. I wanted to fit in the mold. I wanted to check the boxes of like the societal norms around me. And then I found myself kind of wrestling with like, does this actually feel like this is in alignment to me? Do I believe all of this? Is this in alignment? And the answer was no at the end of the day. And that was the first time that I had the chance to start using my voice. And I walked away from my religion. I walked away from a marriage that was not aligned with my values and where I saw my life going. I was very young. This was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So when people are like, when I tell this story, people are like, oh, that was probably a few years ago. I'm sure that this is really still like difficult for you. And I'm like, oh, it was the most pivotal point in my life, but this was 20 years ago. And I've then been able to continue to use my voice through career changes, through relationship changes, through life changes, and make this so authentically mine that I'm no longer living someone else's ideal life. I'm living my ideal life.
So, talk to me a little bit about inspirations to go through that level of tumult. I don't think most people can understand when you walk away from a religion that's totally ingrained not only in your life but in your community. It's a big deal. And
It's a
to have
huge
kind of
deal.
the sea change of things that you go through. Who was that inspiration from the beginning to right now that allowed you to navigate and find your voice at who you are?
It was myself,
Yeah.
which may sound strange to some people,
No.
but what I came to realize was no one was going to save or shape my life for me, how it felt genuinely to me, because I'm the only person who knows that to my deepest level. And so when you take a moment to sit in that dark space of like, okay, I'm in a moment that does not feel aligned to me, that does not feel like it's my true self, or even more important, that future self that I'm working toward. So what am I going to do about it? And making that choice, like it was that the inspiration was my future self, to be more clear,
Yeah.
because when I thought about that, I was like, this is not her. And this every day that I'm living and what this will continue to shape me as is not who I dream to be or who I know I'm meant to be, you know?
Yeah.
So it was initially like my future self to take that initial step. And you're so right. It is such a difficult
Oh, yeah.
and courageous thing for people to do and to really dig in and see, what does that mean for somebody and then to start deconstructing years and lifetimes of what we've brought up to be, to that we were taught and just to know and everything.
Yeah.
So but then to keep that courage, like you were saying, like who kept inspiring me, well then it became my past me that kept inspiring me because she had the courage to step up that first time and then take another decision and then make another one. And that's how courage is, that's how when we talk about confidence isn't something any of us are born with.
Right.
It's built through courage.
Yeah.
And so it was my past self. So it was kind of like, this dichotomy of like two different things. And
Yeah.
it was an interesting space to be in. But I'm so grateful that my tiny little 20-year-old self had the courage to take such a big step for herself because it's
Yeah.
changed everything in my life.
The one thing about entrepreneurship is that to become an entrepreneur, you have to have good examples. And like with
Hmm.
athletes and with all different professions, you have
Yeah.
to have examples. Who has been that entrepreneurial example for you, whether it's an Apple or it's a company like that that has a good product, takes care of their people, does things in the right way, maybe environmentally sensitive, those kinds of things. Who have you
Hmm.
admired? And I'll take it a step further. Who would you love to meet and have a lunch with that might help you in what you're doing with entrepreneurs?
Great questions. So I started when I took that leap of like, okay, I am going to transition out of corporate America and step into entrepreneurship. I knew that going about it alone was a route, but I didn't want the slow route. I didn't want to fall on my face 1,000 times by myself when I knew that there were thousands of people who have done it before me, way more than that, and so put me on the fast track. So I started investing in mentors really quickly. I've had multiple mentors, business coaches, personal coaches. And I think that that came like that value for me came from I've been on teams and like leadership positions from when I was small too. So I have felt the value of that and felt the value of leadership from way early on in my life. So then knowing I'm diving into another new aspect, like diving into mentorship. So I've had several examples one-on-one with me, but then to be able to see powerhouse for me, I'm looking at um, there are several people in my lineup, but there are some particular women in my lineup too that there was a place in my life when I first started college that I was told, well, you want to be a mom, right? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, so why are you going to school? Why are you going to college? And why are you doing all of these things if you're just going to be a mom? And I was so young at the time that I took that to heart. And so I changed my college route because of some conversations it was an influential time in my life,
Yeah.
and so then being able to look at women, Emma Greed is one of them. I love her. I think she's a fantastic woman who had all odds against her, and she took it into her own hands to say, nope, this is the life that is dealt for me, but I'm actually going to go this route. And so she paved her own way too. And she's a mom. She's a successful business owner of several businesses. She's a leader in her community. The things that she's doing with her platform, I really admire because it's one thing to have a platform and to just be loud and successful and showboaty on it, but it's another one to be like, hey, this is everything I've learned. Take everything I have and do it too. You can
Yeah.
unlock your potential too. And I love that she does that. So she's a big one for me. And I actually got the opportunity to meet her.
Right
So
on.
I met her back in March, but I would love to sit down at lunch with her.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would imagine as you approach middle age and after, everything just becomes layers. They just build upon. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
about parts of like really finding that entrepreneurial spirit. It just gets buried beneath this whole thing that we do that's called life. So
hmm
what are the clients that you typically run into? Is that typically it? And who are you looking for to reach out to you to get to this place?
So my clients, my ideal person is also a high performer that's in some sort of transition phase as well. Whether that is a relationship transition, a career transition, a life transition, there is some sort of major transition, and they just need some help building the framework that's going to sustain them getting from point A to point B because they are also feeling that point of like, I'm meant for more, but I just need help bridging that gap. I feel like we all get to some sort of stopping point, whether that is like things look really great and you've built up and that was me in corporate America. I had built up this very successful career. Things looked great. I was traveling a lot from the outside. It was good, but I was left feeling unfulfilled, right? Or like the people that start feeling resentment for time not being able to be delegated how they want to. They're always chasing after their time rather than being proactive with it. So there's things like that that when we're not running on proper framework, then we get into a reactivity. And so that's really my ideal person is like the person who is going through that transition needs the framework and the structure to be able to stay in that high performance mode but then reach the next levels that they have like pulling in that heart
Yeah,
space.
for sure. So, getting involved with humans and the entanglements that go into that transitory place, it can get murky. And you're a
hmm
human yourself and you have to deal with it. So, what is that energy every day for you to give your all to help change their lives, take care of your soul on a personal basis? How does all that come together when the alarm clock does or doesn't go off in the morning?
I put myself first before I put the world ahead of me. I give myself space very intentionally to, and my mornings all look different. My mornings aren't the same every single day. It depends on the day of the week. It depends on what's on my calendar and everything. But what's the non-negotiable is putting myself first. I've got to be like introspective and recharge my battery to be able to function at 100% because I've committed to give myself, to give 100% of myself to whoever is either on the other side of my screen or my desk or whatever the situation is. So I start with myself, and then I'm really aware of what will recharge my battery throughout the day as well. So, like we talked about, I'm here in Utah, and on the other side of my screen, I am looking at the beautiful Wasatch Front Mountains. And so, like for me, I can take 60 seconds and go step out on my porch and take some belly breaths and recharge myself to 100 and step back into my office and keep going at 100, but it's my responsibility to really be honest and identify what recharges me versus what's going to drain me. So on the other side of that, if I know something's coming up that's going to drain me, I need to be able to buffer that to be able to then recharge, and then I'm not functioning at 10% at the end of my day.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You walk
Mm,
into a room and there's a film projector and you click play, and there's a
yeah.
60-second highlight reel of this life you've lived, the choices you've made. Would
Uh-huh.
that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
Oh, she would be so proud. And honestly, like people have asked me that, like if you had to go back to that 18-year-old self, like what would you tell her? What advice would you tell her? And for me, it's like I wouldn't have changed anything other than to just tell her, like, stay strong with your voice. Your voice is your constant here. And so you're on the exact path you need to be and just stay with it. And
Yeah.
so often we want to kind of like turn and run the other way, which I did for a while being young. It's like some of my failures I was like embarrassed or shameful about or anything like that. And then, as you mentioned, as we start layering our life and we get to, more of a middle age and everything, we're like, oh, those failures are beautiful. They're superpowers. We can actually utilize them and not have to run from them. So she'd be so proud.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Let's say you walked into a room of everybody that's known you as a businesswoman throughout your career, from corporate to now, and you swim through that sea of people and you go to a podium and you can tell them one fun story about your life. The first concert you went to, jumping out of an airplane, a wonderful place you traveled to, something seminal. What would be a wonderful story that you would tell, a fun story that would humanize you to that room?
Oh man, I would probably tell them about the time that my now wife and we weren't married yet at the time. We traveled over to Ireland and we took 2 weeks to go over there. And that's the first thing I would tell them is like, make the time to go do these things because so many people that I work with are always like, well, when I get to whatever said goal is, then
Yeah.
I'll take the trip.
Yep.
Then I'll do whatever. Make the time and do it now. Fit it into your life now if it's truly a priority. So we did. We made the time and we went over to Ireland for 2 weeks and we were just present. We were soaking in the beauty around us, which really shaped some of my spirituality. Part of walking away from my religion so long ago was it allowed me the space to like redefine what my spirituality looked like. What did my relationship with God actually mean to me? What does that look like today? And when you are in a space like Ireland, that, and I'm thinking of the cliffs of Moher, they are 700-foot tall cliffs that you stand there and you are just speechless
Yeah.
at this beauty that is incredible. And, I mean, just really soaking that in. The other part that we were really intentional and still are intentional are like the synchronicities of timestamps. So 11:11, 2:22, those kind of things. And for us in our family, that means like if I glance up at the clock and it says 11:11, I am right where I need to be in that moment. I'm not running late. I'm not running early. I am right where God and the universe needs me to be in that space. And we were doing some hiking over in Ireland, and I had taken a ring with me, and I just kept it in my bag. And I was like, if the moment feels right, and if I get the nudge from the universe, then I'll whip out this ring, and if it doesn't feel right, then the ring will come home with me. No harm, no foul. She doesn't know I have it,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And so I had it with me, and we were on this hike and we passed this beautiful waterfall. And Mandy looks at me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, 11/11 on the 11th."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay, I hear you."
It was time.
It was time. Yeah. And so I proposed to her, and it was a really beautiful moment for us together, also as individuals, just in all capacities of that. And the reason I share that with you is we have the chance to slow down as individuals and be aware, and we have the chance to notice the things around us if we give them the chance. It's the same concept as we have the chance to listen to our inner voice if we make the space. But it's all about intentionality, right?
Yep.
And so whether you're in corporate America or like whichever person I would have rubbed shoulders with in
Sure.
that experience, it's such a message to just like there is such an art in being present and really knowing like time is so valuable, and make it special, make it intentional because none of us have enough of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's so interesting about that moment is that, especially coming from like institutional standard religion, like when you're grown up in it, you just get fed all of this, but you don't really feel it. It's not
Yeah.
your narrative. It's not your path. You
Yeah.
you have this invisible notion of what a deity is, but you don't know it until you feel it. And it's those moments when you go out into the world and everything comes together, where you have
Hmm.
that moment where you really understand for yourself on your terms, and then you take advantage of that. I think
Yeah.
that's it. Because I remember seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time, and I was like, there's
Yes.
no possible way that this was concocted or hatched on accident. All of this is intentional, and there is
Hmm.
something definitely, no matter what deity you subscribe to, that comes from
Yes.
a higher level of consciousness. Period. Just
I absolutely agree.
no question, you know?
Yes.
So,
It's really difficult for me to like when I talk to someone that doesn't feel that, and you describe what you just did. You go to a place like the Grand Canyon
mhm.
or out in Ireland or wherever you're, whatever it is that you are taking a chance to like soak in, and my brain really has a trouble wrapping my head around like how can you not think there's
Yeah.
something bigger
Uh-huh.
and beyond ourselves?
Right. And
So,
then you up the ante and you propose, and you're in this place where the time's right, everything's right. You said in the back of your mind, it's true jazz improv. I mean, it's like you
yeah.
don't know until you get there, because you can't plan and choreograph love. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just how it works.
Yeah.
It's gonna come in a very mysterious way, but
Hmm.
when you get that moment, that's when you seize it, and that's when I think spirituality actually becomes an empirical reality for all of us.
Yeah. And it becomes so personal at that
Yep.
point. And
Hmm.
that's what I think everybody should strive for,
Yep.
because that's the true meaning and purpose for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done, accomplished, overcome, and evolved to, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
Using my voice because it's kept me authentically mine. Like it's kept me staying in my truest form without having to second guess anything I'm doing. That doesn't mean it's easy, but by doing that, I was able to, again, that first step that like let me step away from everything that I was taught. But then in doing that, that led me to my relationship with my wife. That led us to having our baby boy. That led us to owning our own businesses, to delegating our time, to like truly living our own freedom. And if we weren't using our voices to do that, we would still be running off of somebody else's clock and time, and that is nowhere I ever want to step back into. So
Yeah,
living in my own container
yeah,
essentially.
that's so cool. So let's get to the true intersection of your soul. When I ask you this, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, everyone that you know, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, I believe I am a tool that God has sent here for a very specific reason. I have had enough challenges that have put me in a state of being like, what am I supposed to learn from this? That I've walked away stronger from.
Hmm.
And so for me to not be able, like, I feel an insane duty to be in the works of him and whatever that looks like. So I would say that, that I'm here to, as an instrument to pour light into others.
Hmm.
And that is truly that is my goal with everything in life is I have a goal to leave any human interaction that I have the pleasure of having, of interacting with any human that I'm able to talk to. It's my goal to leave them lighter and better than when our conversation started.
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing that, I am failing.
Well, you've done it in this conversation that we've had here, so thank you. And before we get out
Thank
the door,
you.
how can people reach out? Questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
Instagram and LinkedIn are the two platforms I'm most active on social wise. I do have a form over on my website too. My website's just tiffanijanowitz.com.
Okay.
But what I want people to really understand, if you feel any type of inkling to reach out or connect, you do not have to go through any sort of transition or growth alone. That doesn't mean that you have to do it in one certain way because there are so many different ways to approach things. I always urge people to be creative in how they problem solve and how they grow.
Yeah.
But the biggest point is we don't have to go about it alone. So
Yeah.
a conversation like this with you, Joe, is just it's so enlightening. It's so like it reminds us of what human connection is meant for. And I
Yeah.
hope that people feel that too.
Well, yeah, and it's the reason why podcasting, when you really get in there, you find out where all the unicorns and rainbows are hiding.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
fun. It's good.
Yep.
It's such, especially in this loony world that we're living in right now,
Uh-huh.
of clown show after clown show, to be able to walk into civil discourse and to feel what the way we should be interacting with humans. It's just a reassuring notion that hopefully gives us all a little bit more hope as we, move forward, because we all need that more than ever these days.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I will put all these links in the show notes. Tiffanie, great to meet you. Thank you so much
Likewise.
for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
You bet.